normal pheasant fly here. This is going to be a dry fly, so these feathers are going to come from the male cape. Alright, so here I have, this is a Firehole 315, and what a hook for dry flies. Super bendy. Anyways, so we're going to start off. This is 14-aught sheer thread, so it's really thin, good for dry flies. This is from around the neck of a male pheasant, and you see it's got nice iridescent. Not only that, but it's iridescent on both sides. Isn't that amazing? So, and you say, well, what's the big deal? Well, not all feathers are iridescent on both sides. So I just pull out a little clump, maybe, I don't know, a little clump there, and that's going to be my short tail. It's going to be a very short tail. So I'm going to go deep into the bend of the hook here, because this is going to be a clink hammer. Alright, so now I have a rump feather. So you'll see it here. This comes from the rump of the pheasant. And what I'm going to do, there's these long wispy strands. You see how long they are? I'm going to take from a long section, say right there, you see how long those are. I'm going to take, oh, I don't know, maybe 10 or so. They're very fine. They are very fine, so it's difficult for them to add any bulk, which is fine. And instead of tying them in at the tips, what I'm going to do is square off the ends, and I'm going to tie them in at the base. Alright, so go ahead and just catch them at the base. Again, they are very wispy, and they break very easily, so do be careful with this material. Now that we have our body in there, what I'm going to do is take some hackle pliers and I'm just going to start wrapping. And that resistance, right, so there, think about it, they're on the rump of the animal, and so it's used to just kind of let water wisp away. There we go. See, that looks great. And so it's a little bit better for a dry fly. Just a little bit. Now this will still absorb water, you know, the body will hang down, but not nearly as much as, say, a pheasant tail fiber would. They're a little bulkier, a little fuzzier, and they hold more water. These are finer, and they hold less water. So I'm using McFly, here we go, McFlylon for my post, so I'm going to tie that in. I just have a little strand here, and I'm just going to post it up. You can do this before or after, I guess it doesn't really matter. Whatever. Does that look pretty good? Alright. So, for our hackle, I'm just using some gray hackle. Unfortunately, there are no hackle fibers on the pheasant that we could use, so I'm using this kind of gray because this is sort of a dimmer pattern, especially when you see or a grayer pattern. I don't know, I think it just looks good. You know what, I don't even have a real reason, I'm just talking, I suppose. But I'm going to lock in my gray hackle, just loosely, nothing crazy. Okay. Trim that little tag. And now I'm going to add my thorax. And there's like a zillion different places that you can get this thorax from, but if you look underneath, all the feathers, there's this stuff. It's this warm, gray, shiny kind of plumage here. It's a really fluffy. And so all you need to do is take one feather, just like so, and just kind of pluck it off in little bits. And then once you get it in your fingers, just pluck it again, and pluck it again, and then just loosely apply it to your thread. That's too much. Once you get, again, don't clump it all together, because when you clump it all together you get something that looks ridiculous, and you do not want that. Alright, that's not bad. So you see this, see how I have too much clumped right here, right? But whatever, we're gonna make it work. How does that look? How does that look? That looks fantastic. Now this material also is not super buoyant, but again, we want this body to hang down. So I'm going to go back up, and I'm going to turn my fly for the remainder of this process, and I will fix this so you guys can see it a little better this time. Alright, so now I've got this. I mean, look at that. Isn't that incredible? You can brush this out if you want to make it more buggy, but I think this is just fine for me. I might trim a few of the snagglers here off, but not a big deal. So here we go. We have our tails looking great. So now I'm going to be a little more careful going up, and I'm going to try to make it nice and neat, getting it exactly where I want, pulling it kind of tight. Then I'll go back down, just so that my post is a little more secure. There we go. So now it's a nice kind of smooth post. I haven't taken any fibers off this hackle. Some people do that, but I'm not going to, because I want it to float. I need this hackle to be my main floating, this and the yarn. So what I'm going to do is take a few extra wraps. So it might look a little bushy, but that's okay. We're going to come in and clean it up a little bit after. So once I reach the bottom, I'm going to do 2 under my hackle, 1 before it. There we go. See, like, there's a few fibers down here. Don't worry too much about them. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to trim this. I like my posts to be shallow, because I find if they're too tall, then the fly gets tippy. You know what I mean? So I like them to be nice and short. And then I'm going to come in and cut my my hackle, and then I'm going to whip finish right here. Again, do your best to try and not get any fibers captured. Not bad. And so from here, I'm going to come in and clean up any fibers that I caught. Alright, so I've just come in and just kind of plucked some of the fibers away that, you know, weren't doing so hot or that I didn't really like. And so here we go. We have our nice little post, little gap there for it to hang down. So this body should hang down and this should float nice and high. And that is your pheasant dry fly. A really nice one. I really like the iridescence on the tail. As you can see there, it's a nice little tag almost for the fish to see. So there's our pattern, and that completes our pheasant dry nymph and soft hackle fly. So I hope you enjoyed it. Our next bird is going to be duck. Maine duck hunters are notoriously psychotic, and so because there's just not that many ducks here, so our next bird will be the duck, and you'll see a nymph dry and wet fly that you can tie with mallards or woodies or teals or something like that. Alright, so thanks for watching everyone. I hope you enjoyed, and hope to see you next time.